Hey guys, welcome back to my channel Data Analytics with Divya. In my previous video, I have explained you how to create database, how to create tables and how we will insert the data and select the data, right? In today's video, let's discuss about primary key and foreign key. So without any further delay, let's get started. So I open MySQL workbench. Now I'm clicking on local instance. So as you know, we have created a Divya database previously, right? To activate the database, let me write use command. So I'm writing as use Divya. Now, as you see, database got activated, and if you remember, I created a table called as employees in this database, right? Now let me display the data from employees table. To do that, I'm using select clause, select star from employees. I'm executing this, and this is the output. That is, I created a table name with employees in which I have four columns: employee ID, employee name, date of joining and salary. In that I have two rows of data. Okay, generally in any company, for every employee there should be unique employee ID, right? If you talk about any student details in any school or any college, for every student there will be one unique student ID, right? In the same way, for every employee there will be unique employee ID. There should not be the same employee IDs for two employees, correct? So as you can see the data here, let me execute insert statement once again and let me see the result. So here I'm executing the insert statement once again. Okay, it is accepting. Now let me display the data by using select command. See here, as you know, previously I inserted first two rows, and just now I once again executed that insert command. It is, instead of throwing error, it is accepting. That means here if you observe, there is common employee ID for two employees. That this is duplicate data, right? As I said, there should be unique employee ID for one employee. Okay, if I try to enter the same employee ID, SQL should throw me an error. To do that, we need to use primary key. Okay, primary key. Primary key is it won't allows null values or duplicate values. Okay, so primary key won't allows null values and duplicate values. That means for every employee there should be employee ID for sure. It should not be null and it should not be duplicate. For every employee, the employee ID should be unique. The same employee ID should not be there for more than one employee, correct? So we need to create the table in such a way, if we try to enter any duplicate values, or if you try to give any null values, it should not accept it. It should throw us an error. So to do that, let me create another table as we have employees table. So now let me change the table name and create it once again. Okay, instead of employees, I'm giving it as employees 1 and data is same. Like I'm create table employees 1 with four columns: employee ID as int, employee name char, date of joining date and salary float. Okay, this is how we created previously, but here I'm saying employee ID should not allow any null values or duplicate values, right? To do that, we need to define primary key for employee ID. For defining the primary key, we need to use primary key here. For whatever column we are defining the primary key, beside that column name and the data type name, we need to mention as primary key. Okay, we need to give the primary key here. Employee ID, it is of integer data type, and it should be, I defined primary key for this column. Now let me execute this statement. See, the table got created, and let me insert the data. Okay, I'm inserting the same data in this table as well. See, I'm executing this insert statement. As you see, insert into employees, that is table name, values, and I'm giving the values of each rows inside it. Okay, let me execute that. It got executed, and let me display the data using select command. Employees 1. And yes, this is the data. As you observe, you can see null at the bottom, right? It means it is saying that we have used primary key for this table, right? And the data is same, okay? But the only thing is that I defined primary key in this table for employee ID to maintain employee ID as a unique column, correct? So now let me again execute this statement and see, okay? As I said, instead of accepting this data, now this SQL should throw us an error. Let's see whether it is doing or not. So I selected the data, I selected the insert statement and executing. See, it thrown me an error. It is stating that duplicate entry key primary. It is throwing an primary key error. SQL is saying us that you are trying to enter the duplicate data. Correct? Now let me again see the output. See, it is showing only two rows, correct? Of course, I tried executing insert statement, the same statement again, but it is not accepting. It is throwing me error saying that primary key violation. That means we are not supposed to enter any duplicate values, correct? In real time, we need to define the primary key for that columns which we want to display only the unique values like employee ID in this table, correct? So this is the use of primary key. It won't allow null values and it won't allow duplicate values. Now let me create another table with the table name as departments, okay? See, I'm creating like table name departments. In that I'm creating two columns with department ID as integer, and I'm defining primary key to department ID column, and the next column name is department name. Okay, so create table departments, department ID, int is the data type. I'm defining primary key, department name column. For that column, I'm giving char as a data type. Now let me create this table. The table got created. Let me insert the data. I'm inserting by using insert into command, insert into departments table, values. I'm giving department ID is 1, HR is the department name, department ID is 2, and accounting is another department name. Now let me execute this statement and it got executed. Now let me display data by using select star from department. Okay, let's see the output. See, it got created department ID and department name, and the data is also displayed, and it is showing null because I defined primary key for department ID column, correct? So now we have employees table and department table. Let me execute, let me see the output of this two statements. Select star from employees. Okay. If I write semicolon after select statement or after any SQL statement, SQL will consider that whenever it sees a semicolon, it will consider it as the end of the statement. Okay. So by using this semicolon here, SQL will understand this line is the select star from employees is one SQL statement and select star from departments is another SQL statement. I just wanted to execute this both statements, this both separate statements together. Okay. See, I executed that, and the reason I have executed this because I wanted to see both the tables. Here, whenever I executed at a time, the result will be displayed beside only. I can select from here. So, sorry, I need to select employees 1 here, right? Sorry for that. Let me select employees 1 and execute once again. Yeah, I got the tables here. In employees 1 table, we have this data, correct? And employees and departments table, we have this data. Okay. So now, for every employee, if he is working in any company, he should work under any department, right? Now by seeing this data, can we able to understand in which department John is working? No, right? Because we have John details here and we have department details here, but there is nothing to show me that John is working under either this department or this department, right? Just we have two different tables. Now to understand the data and now or to understand under which department this employee is working, we need to create a relationship between this both tables. Okay, we will use foreign key to create the relationship between two tables. Now let's see the syntax of creating the foreign key. To do that, let me create another table now here. I'm writing the table name as employee EMP department table, and I'm writing the syntax like this. See, I'm telling in my EMP department table, I want two columns, that is employee ID and department ID, and a different employee ID data type as integer, department ID data type as integer. But here I'm telling that instead of creating the different data, I want to give the reference of previous tables. To do that, I'm creating the relationship by using foreign key. I'm saying foreign key of employee ID. I want to, literally I want to keep the data of employees table employee ID into this table. Okay, so that's the reason I'm here mentioning as employee, this employee ID should refer to the references employees table employee ID. That means here I'm telling to the SQL that I want to take the data from employees table employee ID, and I want to put that data in this employee ID of employee department table. And in the same way, for the department ID, I'm telling I want to create a relationship to the department ID, that is foreign key of department ID references to the departments of department ID. That means I want to take department ID from the department table data, and I want to store it in this department ID. Okay. I know it will create a little bit of confusion, but still, let me try to repeat it once again. As I said, I'm creating a new table called as employee department, which I want two columns, that is employee ID and department ID. And for those two columns, I given the data type as integer, and I'm telling that I'm using a foreign key on employee ID table, and it should refer the employees table employee ID. So the same way, from where I took this department ID, I took this department ID from departments table department ID, correct? So for that only, I am just using this references keyword. So let me execute the statement. See, the table got created. Now let me insert the data. Okay, insert into employee department table values. I'm just giving the data as 1 comma 1 comma 2 comma 2. So the 1 comma 1 in the sense, this is employee ID and this is department ID. This is employee ID and this is department ID. Now let me just execute this up first. It got executed. Now let me display the data. Okay, the data is displayed. So now let me execute all these three select statements at a time. Okay, as I said, to execute all these statements at a time, we need to mention semicolon here, and I'm selecting all these three rows and executing. We can see the output beside. So we have employees table here, employees one table with all these details. We have departments table, but previously we don't know in which, if I ask you like in which department John is working, we, uh, we cannot answer that question because there is no relation between these two tables. Now to create the relationship between these two tables, I created employee department table in which I gave the details like employee ID 1 belongs to the department ID 1 and employee ID 2 belongs to the department ID 2. That means, as you can see here, employee ID 1 belongs to department ID 1, right? Now, who is employee ID 1? John. And what is department number 1? HR. That means John is working under HR department, correct? Here, employee table 2, employee ID 2 is department ID 2. That means employee ID 2 is Anthony, and Anthony is working under accounting department, right? That means Here, what I did after creating the two tables, to create the relationship between the two tables, I just created another table and I just said that I want to refer this employee ID from this employees table employee ID, and I want to take this department ID by from departments table department ID. Okay, and I just mapped this data here. But from this data, we can able to answer these questions. So this is how we will create the relationship between the tables by using foreign key. So in today's video, we have learned how to create a primary key and foreign key. These are a most important, basically these are called as key integrity constraints. There are many integrity constraints, but still we will use primary key and foreign key most frequently in real time. Let's discuss about the foreign key by taking an example. If we observe, we have two tables here, that is students table and course details table. In students table, we have three columns: student ID, student name and course ID. And in course details table, we have three columns: course ID, course name and duration. Here, what will be the primary key for students table? Student ID, right? Because student ID will be unique for every student. So let me write it here. Student ID acts as a primary key for students table. And in course details table, course ID will be the primary key, right? If you observe, there is course ID column in students details table as well. So in this table, in students table, course ID column will act as a foreign key because it is creating a relationship between these two tables. That is, we can understand the data between these two tables with the help of course ID only. If I ask what is the course name of Raj is taking, with the help of students table, you can see the course ID of Raj is 1, and we can go to the course table and we can see that course name for course ID 1 is SQL. So that we can answer Raj is taking SQL course with the help of this course ID only. That is the reason I said course ID is defined as a foreign key in students table. So by seeing these tables, we can conclude that, let me write it here, for every table, there will be one primary key, right? For every table, there will be one primary key, right? That is, for students detail table, we have student ID as primary key, and in course details table, we have course ID as primary key. And the second point is, every foreign key acts as a primary key in another table. Correct? See, course ID is the foreign key in this table and the course ID is the primary key in this table. That means every foreign key will be the primary key in another table, right? And if you can observe, we can also tell that, as we know, in primary key the data will be unique, but in foreign key the data is repeating, correct? We have the same course ID for two rows. So we can say that in foreign key data can be repeated. In foreign key, the data can be repeated, right? So this is the use of a foreign key. By using foreign key only, we will create the relationship between the two tables and we can understand the data between them. So with this example, I guess now you understand how we will use foreign key, right? That's it for today's video, and I think now you have got an idea about how to create a primary key and foreign key. And if you are new to my channel, please do like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.